Afternoon, everyone. Hope everyone's doing well. There's something that I've forgotten to do after I read my book and what have you. Don't worry, the oven's playing up a little bit, just getting a bit more food into me. But that's not what you call. I want to talk a little bit about the Reform Party because it is starting to fall apart for them. This is kind of why, after Farage started having his stabs at Tommy Robinson, I was very reluctant to continue supporting them. That, and of course, we have people like Richard Tice, Anne Widdecombe, Lee Anderson, who all ended up taking stabs at Tommy Robinson. And while I do accept that Lee Anderson eventually tried to make up for it and say, well, you know what, what's happening to the guy is fundamentally wrong, as did Farage, it doesn't change the fact that after their slander, as it were, of ordinary people, and Widdecombe in particular, who disgustingly said that Peter Lynch, God rest his soul, was a rioter because he held a placard. No, he didn't even engage in any of the violent rioting that was going on. And as I've always said, and will do without fail, I don't support rioting in any capacity. I don't think people should be going along, grabbing a hammer or something, and I didn't screw the cap on properly. Anyway, I don't think they should be going around grabbing a hammer or something and bashing the door in. How the hell is... I tightened this shit. Bollocks. I just can't win, can I? Right. They thought that because he was holding a placard, he was rioting. I don't support that kind of behaviour at all. The going in, stealing stuff from Greggs, pushing bins up to hotels or setting fire to police stations or vans or what have you. I don't support that in any way, shape or form. However, Anne was definitely wrong on that one. She was definitely wrong to call Peter Lynch a rioter. Protester? Maybe. Rioter? No. He was not that. He was a loving granddad, a patriot, and above all else, he was passionate about sticking it to the man. He merely shouted at police, nothing more. But because of this two-tier policing society we live in, he ended up going to jail and he took his own life. Then, of course, we have what happened with Tice when he referred to us as that lot. And then we also have the fact that Lee Anderson has had significant bouts of unprofessionalism, shall we say. How he, when he was getting heckled, he was like, do you want to shut up or what? Or do you want to come up here and speak? And as I said before, during that particular story, if you want someone to speak, Lee Anderson, I'll come up there and fucking speak. I can talk for England, quite frankly. Because I think I share a lot of feelings that quite a lot of people out there are also feeling. They feel angry, they feel frustrated, they feel like there are no other options other than we need to prepare for civil war, which ironically is now happening in the Reform Party. There are so many of us right now who feel like the only option we've got at the moment is to basically start taking up arms and trying to defend ourselves, or to basically put mass protests, mass civil disobedience out there, because our establishment is not listening to us. Everything we protest about goes in one ear and out the other. So can you understand why some of these people are taking to the streets now and are wanting their country back? And here we have people like Richard Tice who are branding us all as that lot. Or you have the mainstream shill media and, of course, Keir the traitor Starmer, who wants to call us all far right when we're about as far to the right as I am. Well, no. Just no. As I'm right in thinking that I'm a slim person. No one here is far right. Right so far? Maybe. But far right? No fucking chance, mate. No fucking chance, governor. And I ought to kick you down the apples and pears, my son. Let me tell you. Anybody who thinks any of us are far right needs to get themselves checked out from the neck up. Because I can assure you right now that the vast majority of us, or at least bare minimum 95 to 98% of us, are not far right. We want what's best for this country. We have been doing everything we can to keep everything to do with these movements and unite the kingdom and what have you. We've been doing all we can to keep it peaceful. Believe it or not. Of course, there are left-wing groups like Hate Not Hope. There are left-wing NPCs in the establishment who want to send in infiltrators to try and infiltrate the group and try to break it out from the inside out. They want to discredit the movement. Hell, there were a couple of tweets recently that was put up by the admin team of Tommy Robinson. Apparently, there are a few people in the movement already who are pretending to be all for Tommy Robinson, and yet it's basically like this. They're like, oh, we're going to get him now, and then just plunge the knife in. That's the only way I can describe it. They're a bunch of backstabbing wankers, put simply. There is about as much integrity in them as a straw teepee against fire. But you know what? The team has usually been pretty on point as far as taking out the trash is concerned, i.e. the infiltrators. Soon as they get found out, that shit is nipped in the bud straight away. And quite rightly too. We don't need assholes like them in the group discrediting the movement, quite frankly. Way I slice it is any of these scumbags, because that's what they are, that want to come into the movement and basically piggyback off the movement for their own malevolent intentions, can fucking do one right now. They have no place in our society. And that goes for any type of person, because I'm indiscriminate here. Don't care if you're white, if you're black, if you're yellow, if you're green, or if you're blue, if you support Christianity, if you support Hinduism, if you're a Muslim, blah, blah, blah. You start trying to stab people in the back, we want you out of that movement. Just like that. We have no place for traitors. We have no place for backstabbers. We have no place for people who want to go out of their way to basically take a swipe at Tommy. It's so easy for you fuckers to do that. A man who's sitting in prison, unable to defend himself. A man who's not even allowed to speak on any of those social media channels. Actually, no, that's not true. On the mainstream media channels, I meant. He's not allowed any time on GB News, on ITV News, on BBC, on Sly News, on wherever. You'll be lucky if they give him the time of day, let alone 5 minutes on one of their programmes. Because at the end of the day, these hypocrites, these pot kettle black dickheads, to put it simply, they're all well and good coming along, walking in and being like, right, you right-wing channels, we want you to have some of our left-wing people on so that there can actually be debate and what have you, and to keep Ofcom happy. Oh, but we don't want you lot on our channels. No, we don't want any of you guys there because we don't give racists and fascists and all that airtime on our channels. But of course the mainstream media won't tell you this. You know the drill, folks, because say it with me, it doesn't suit the narrative. If you're lucky, though, they might tell you how nice these nuggets are going to be. Anyway, the point is, the left wing are always very quick to say, you need to be balanced, you need to be impartial, you need to not have bias. But they're not willing to have anybody on the other side of the spectrum debate on their channels. Isn't that funny, folks? Isn't that just a coincidence? Nah, I didn't think so either. The way I slice this, though, is the Reform Party needs to get a grip. All these debates and Rupert Lowe and Lee Anderson taking stabs at one another does not benefit the country. It does not benefit anyone. And now there is speculation from even Paul Thorpe and Richard Inman themselves that Reform may well be controlled opposition. And it would not surprise me at this point, quite frankly. Think about it. A lot of people, give me a moment. A lot of people have been saying that Nigel Farage was controlled opposition. And we've seen what he does as far as slandering Tommy is concerned. Now, to be devil's advocate here, I do accept that Tommy Robinson has an air of toxicity about him politically, which makes Chernobyl look like a normal day in the office. However, it doesn't change the fact that even if Tommy Robinson is a politically toxic component, and I won't disagree he is, it doesn't change the fact there are some things that don't come down to whether or not someone's toxic, or whether or not you agree or disagree with certain points with hither or whether. It comes down to a basic matter of common sense. And what a lot of these people don't seem to have when it comes down to Tommy Robinson is common sense. It is not smart to take on Tommy Robinson, because Tommy Robinson, I wouldn't say he's God when it comes down to politics, because I think that's a bit of a fucking stretch, let's face it. But what I will say he is akin to how Margaret Thatcher was a titan in politics, in that Tommy Robinson is a titan as far as these political debates are concerned. He's done his research. He knows what's going on. He could probably tell you every nut and every screw and every bolt of how the so-called religion of peace operates. But if the mainstream media think they're going to get one over on him by using terms like Islamophobia, they've got another thing coming. Tommy just absolutely destroys them. So I guess in a sense that's also why, to be devil's advocate to that point now, why they won't allow people like him, or people like Martuzzi, or Paul Thorpe, to name a few, on their mainstream media channels. Because if they were allowed on the channels, well, I guess that would be a good thing for left wing, because they'd actually get their fucking views up. I think it would make for a great deal more entertainment. But these people on the right side of politics would absolutely destroy anybody. Stroke number one. Anybody on the left, just like that. Because they have facts on their side. They have the truth on their side. There are very few people on the left side of politics, or on the left side of this political spectrum, who can actually cohesively put together a logical argument or facts towards the other side. But again, that's something the mainstream media are not going to want to tell you. What do you think they do most of the time as far as left-wing talks are concerned? They mainly focus on attack, attack, attack. They don't focus on what is factual. They don't focus on good talking points. They're all about throwing out the name tags. They're all about discrediting the other side by using phrase slaves. Or slave phrasing, I should say. They're all about using words that trigger the gramophone minds of people. They focus on saying, well, he's a far-right racist thug, in hopes that it will trigger that gramophone mind and that will brainwash them into thinking, oh, he's a far-right racist and blah, blah, blah. But if people actually did 10, 20 minutes of research, a lot of the left-wing arguments can be completely debunked, just like that. All of their rhetoric could be unwound. It could be completely torn to pieces. Or you could just use scissors for that. Anyway, their logic would be torn to pieces because they don't have truth on their side. But for reform, maybe these two have facts on their side for the most part. The problem is Rupert Lowe and Lee Anderson and all the other reform people, I'm going after each of them equally here. They need to stop focusing on tit for tat and playground politics within their own parties, quite frankly. Right now, I don't see reform as the enemy. I don't see UKIP as the enemy. I don't see Nigel Farage or Lee Anderson or Richard Tice or Anne Widdecombe as enemies. I see them as people who are sometimes misguided, and I see them as people who have not got their eyes on the prize. The way I slice it, if I can see the prize off in the distance is an all-inclusive holiday, and what they're focusing on is, oh, we want to get some more gravy granules and ruin them. What do you think I'm going to be focusing on? That or the holiday? I'd be going for the fucking holiday, let me tell you. Just to put it in a figure of speech. But right now, rather than seeing Keir the traitor Starmer and the nonce party, I mean the Labour Party, or maybe I was right first time, as the real enemies of this country, they're focusing on each other. And yes, I am a little bit guilty of basically tearing apart some things that some people on our side have said. But bear in mind, I tear apart the argument and not the person, as far as our side is concerned. The only time I'll tear them apart completely is if it turns out they're a traitor or a backstabber or a liar, like a liar on a major scale. Which is why I say Richard Inman is not a bad person. I just think that one time I did call out one of the things he said in his video, I think he had that bit wrong. That's the way I look at it. But Richard Tice, Rupert Lowe, Nigel Farage, Lee Anderson, they need to wake up. They need to grow up. And they need to focus on the real enemy. Wars are not won by stabbing each other in the back. Wars are won by focusing on the real enemy in front of you. On the real enemy that is looking to puppeteer everything. That is looking to destroy our country. Is Rupert Lowe destroying the country? No. Is Lee Anderson destroying the country? No. Is Nigel Farage destroying the country? No. Is Zia Youssef destroying the country? No. The one person who is directly responsible for the serious downward spiral of this country right now is Keir the traitor Starmer. And don't ever tell me to call him sir, because you'll just get one of these, quite frankly. But we need to focus on him. We need to take out the trash as far as the houses of treachery, Parliament, or again, maybe I was right first time, is concerned. We need to deal with the people who are hell-bent for leather on destroying our country and get rid of them. It does pretty much remind me of that little weed killer advert, Roundup I believe it was called, where most weed killers, they only hit the leaves. So the leaves will die, the root up top will die, but it will come back. It's basically like a fucking, what are they? Those inflatable punch bags. You punch it down and it gets back up again. But Roundup kills the root, apparently. And if you kill the root, if you kill the stems, you destroy the roots of that weed, it can never grow back. And I do see Keir the Traitor Starmer as a weed that needs to be uprooted. The only way we're going to do that is if Reform stops fucking around, stops trying to snipe each other, joins us, at least for the time being, and we focus all our efforts on putting the Labour Party under immense pressure. If we put that pressure on the Labour Party, they will fold, given enough time. And if they won't, and they will push us over the edge of that cliff, then we will have no choice but to prepare for civil war. I know it's not something anybody wants. I sure as shit don't want to see a violent revolution. I don't want to see blood on the streets. But it's what Keir the Traitor Starmer is aiming for. And he's going to use it as an excuse to bring in those laws, the draconian measures, bring in the army. But bear in mind, a lot of them are going to want to serve the people and not him. Think of all the harm that Keir the Traitor Starmer has done. He is pissing off all people from all walks of life. Soldiers, farmers, working class, middle class, even his own fucking backbenchers. If he keeps alienating everyone, who's going to want to work for him? Who's going to want to serve him? Who's going to want to protect him? Maybe the most loyal of Keir the Traitor Starmer's stormtroopers, but that's about it. But we need to stop sniping each other. We need to start going after the real enemy. And most importantly, we need to keep our eyes on the prize. Because at this point, there's no prize for second place.